Let's go.
Let's go, Ding. We're back. What episode are we now? 20, 22, I believe.
22. Yes, sir. 22.
Awesome, my man. I am mobile. I am on location. I am down in Seattle. Just checked out the Seattle Seahawks training camp. And anybody for their fantasy lineups, DK Metcalf looks in mid-season form. And I actually wouldn't be surprised if Zach Charbonnet overtakes Kenneth Walker by mid-season as the lead back in the Seattle offense. I know it's not slap fight related, and we got a lot to talk about, but always great to shoot this shit with you, Ding. I know you got something big coming up. I hear that you're going to be at Fanatics Live. How excited are you for that?
Yeah, man. Fanatics Fest, August 16th through the 18th at the Javits Center over in New York. Man, I'm pumped. I've never been, obviously. I don't exactly know what to expect, but I'm pretty excited. There's going to be quite the lineup there, so I couldn't be more excited. And shout out to you, man. You're mobile. You're committed. You got a mic. I mean, this is incredible.
Yeah, you know what? Stepped up the game this weekend, hit up Long and McQuaid, and made sure we got a digital setup with improved quality because the show must go on. Smack Talk Live coming to you every Tuesday, 3 p.m. in the West and 6 p.m. on the East. And we're going to dive into it. Episode 1. I mean, what did you think overall? We see kind of, a bit of the aftermath kind of coming out of it. Obviously, DeFrank seems to be kind of the star on the rise, the people that are talking about it. We even have an endorsement by Ryan, the King of King Phillips, seemingly liking this kid. So do you think that the future is bright for him?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I think ultimately, we've always talked about the lightweight division or lack thereof. And so I'm excited to see what this means for that division and Robert Trujillo, namely.
Yeah, I mean, definitely agree with you through and through. Seems to be, one of those guys that has some of the intangibles. Obviously skill set's one thing, personality is another thing. But then, Josh Bovair also incredible round 1 victory. And in the post-fight interview, if you haven't seen it over on Slap News, go check it out. But Josh talked about, placement over power was one of the things that he focused on in that particular match. He wanted to shorten up his swing, wanted to make sure that there was less variability so that he wouldn't commit a foul in that first round should he knock his competitor out, that it was a clean and victorious. So he is moving on to round 2. Obviously, we think Josh, buddies of Eddie Spaghetti, a fellow Canadian. Maybe I'm a little bit biased, but hopefully we see him go deep into this competition. He's going into round 2, and then we're able to see him at a live event very soon. Very interesting to see this lightweight tournament continues. It seems like this second episode is also going to feature the 3 other matches on the lightweight tournament. Ding, let's run through those.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, I was a little confused, I'll be honest, by the whole Devin Helm thing, showing that footage in the very beginning, and then announcing, McGregor's going to fight. McGregor is fighting. Why am I forgetting his name? Hold on, I'll get it.
Dakota McGregor, another Canadian.
Yeah, Dakota McGregor's fighting Ivan Hernandez. So I thought it was those 2 matches. It turns out they're going to finish up the first round of the lightweight tournament. So we're actually going to be able to see Isaac Guenther versus Roddy Montoya, 2 guys obviously we haven't seen anything from, as well as Jair Roberto versus William Shockey. All of these guys are active on social media. We've kind of seen them posting. Maybe some of it is foreshadowing. I'm pretty excited to see what these guys bring to the table. And if it's anything like what we saw last week, then we're in for a treat.
Yeah, absolutely. I think youth is really first and foremost amongst this crop of Road to the Title Season 3 athletes. We're seeing, the recruiting for it gone, a lot younger. And so we are going to see some of the, as it kind of progresses deeper, I think we're going to see quite a wide spectrum of young athletes, in their early 20s all the way up to, guys like Darren Godfrey in their mid 30s. So we're going to see how that transpires. I mean, even, James Stonier, for an example, has got to be pushing upper end of 30s as well. So we're going to see kind of how that experience and that age, continues to, progress here as part of Power Slap. So great to see. Boy, Isaac, 18 years old. Crazy. Or sorry, 19. So if Isaac is actually 19, they seemingly getting younger and younger coming into Power Slap. And, but I mean, Anthony DeFrank, how old do you think he is? Do we know?
20, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, definitely pretty young chap for sure. So, great to kind of see this evolution to kind of take place. And I mean, we're seeing a different strategy on social media too. I don't know if you notice a lot of these guys are doing a lot of self promotion. We're seeing these guys go live. So, if you want to get their live real time reaction, definitely check it out because these guys are live on IG throughout the entire time. We've seen, I think I counted 1.16 or 19 strikers doing watch alongs during the actual episode itself. So.
Yeah, man, I think the fight IQ you talked about a second ago, I think the fight IQ is way different. The way these guys are training, what went into Boisvert's, his training and his preparation, and why he made the decisions that he made on that night. As far as like the cocking of the arm, it's way different than it used to be, man. I think this is a funny comment. Check this out.
Can't even get into Circa.
Like, so what would happen?
I'm not sure what would happen, man. I mean, that's interesting because you do have to be of age to be able to get into Circa. Maybe he needs a chauffeur every time he comes in and out, go to his room. He's got to call security, come and get him when he leaves. Or otherwise, they can always put him at one of the sister hotels. They'd probably put him over at the D or, Plaza or something like that. But that's an interesting concept to think about and one that, definitely Brandon Bordeaux bringing it up, I think is great.
Well, you called it a chauffeur. I'd call it a babysitter in that case.
Yeah. Well, yeah, could pull dual duties. Him and Robert Trujillo.
Oh, there you go. Dakota thinks he's 21.
Okay. So Dakota's obviously going to be on this show. Like I said, fellow Canadian. I believe he comes from the east coast of Canada. We're going to see him put his skill set front and center. Looks like a kid that's pretty tough. Looks like he comes from a blue collar job. We're going to see him on full display. He was one of the early guys that actually reached out to us, very early on that he was going to be on the show. So great to see, him getting his opportunity to shine. Obviously it was pre-taped, but, it's new for all of us fans of the sport. And, we're just seeing it continue. I think that's one of the biggest things is that we are getting that mix of stuff in the house with the actual fights. And one of the most mind-blowing things from the Boisvert interview is that he let us know that they actually didn't get to know who won the coin toss at the weigh-ins. They didn't know until they got up on stage who was swinging first, which I thought was incredibly interesting. So he said he actually liked it because then he didn't have the nerves of having to sit there and think if he was going to get struck first and how that it was going to impact the outcome of the match. So he actually said he kind of liked it. I mean, obviously from a betting perspective, it makes things a lot more interesting. But Ding, what do you think about that? Not knowing the coin toss well in advance as we have before. Typically when they announce the actual matches, we know the coin toss.
Yeah, I mean, I think it takes badass to a whole new level, man. To go up there willingly, not knowing if you're going to get hit or not. You can't really prepare or hit first, excuse me. You can't really prepare. It takes away an entire element of that psychological game, and it makes me respect these guys just that much more.
Absolutely. I mean, couldn't agree with you more. I just think, I think the house and the way that it's set up, with the free liquor for these guys to indulge in sets up for the opportunity for a reality TV show to get out of hand. We've seen a little bit of the pre-fights. Seemingly from all the clips, it looks like there's going to be fights in the house every single episode. And from some of the guys that have said it as well, it definitely looks like there's, upwards of 10, 12 fights going to be taking place outside of the stage itself. So I think it's kind of cool to see how everything is kind of running through here. And, we'll just keep on rocking here. What's this about, Ding?
Yeah, so this is a great point. We actually had somebody reach out to us earlier, and they talked about it would be cool if they sort of made the coin toss a spectacle, which I agree with, because you don't know what's gonna happen, and everybody can kind of get excited about it. But they recommended doing it right before the fight happens. Outside of the show, like on a number card, you can't do that because of betting. Obviously, the odds makers and the different sites need the opportunity to be able to set the lines and things like that. And a lot of it is based on this. And if you need an example of that, just look no further than Vern Cathy versus Austin Turpin. The odds changed significantly once Turpin missed weight and the coin toss was now forfeited and in Vern's favor. It changed a lot. And so, even though the stats say that the coin toss, who strikes first, doesn't necessarily mean they win, it does matter quite a bit in some particular matchups, depending on what kind of power you're talking about.
No, definitely agree with you on that. Obviously the house a little bit different, but it's still interesting to see because we did actually get in this past week 3 matches that we had a Power Slap number 8 that were tape fights that just seemingly released on back to back to back days with really no hype or really no rhyme or reason as to why they were being released, which kind of makes me question, Ding, what's your thoughts on this? Why even tape it in the first place if you're just going to put them out on consecutive days to social media and just kind of let it run that way? What's your thoughts?
It's tough to say. I mean, maybe it's like a proving ground. Maybe they're concerned about diminishing the live product if they're maybe not so sure on the strikers that they have up there. I mean, if you look at Joe Scott, Zach Zane, that ended in a DQ, obviously not the way you wanted to go. Cooper Housley, Logan Greenhall entered a draw again, not a way that you want to go. I actually thought that fight was great, but a draw, it doesn't give you any clarity. It kind of means the match happened for no reason. Nobody moves ahead in that case. And then you had the match of the Brendans, which again I thought was a great match, but maybe being that Brandon Rhodes was on the show, they hadn't seen enough of him just yet. They wanted to see kind of what he was capable of. So it could be, and I'm reaching here to be honest with you, but it could be kind of like a filler, an opportunity for them to prove themselves, because the last thing you want is disqualifications on a card. We've had that happen before, like Power Slap 6. I thought they did great at 8. We only had one DQ, if I'm not mistaken, and that was just Jackie Katarina on the live card, and the other DQ took place on tape fight. So I think there might be something to this. Like I said, you had a DQ and a draw, and then you had one fight that was good, but again, it was risky because you don't know. One of the guys has never really competed in front of an audience, so it's a possibility. Again, I'm just offering up something because I can't think of any other reason why they would do that. Yeah. They would film them, not show them live, and then all of a sudden just 3 consecutive days, drop them all.
Yeah. And I mean, what kind of was shockingly the most was Brandon Rhodes on Road to the Title Season 3. We figured that there probably would have been a finale, him and, the Butcher in probably the last episode. And I figured that they would have tied that matchup from Power Slap number 8 into the show itself. Seemingly they didn't. We see the matchup of Brandon Rhodes before we even see him on Road to the Title 3. So what does that really mean? I know Brandon's in the chat, so I mean, you can say what you want, but does Brandon Rhodes make it far? Does he go through the 2 rounds in the house for his opportunity to go up against the Butcher? Or did something else happen? Was he out early? Maybe he got disqualified. Did he get injured in his first round? Maybe it was a victory, disqualification, and he wasn't able to compete in the second round, so they give him another opportunity to come back, when he's healthy. Kind of adds a lot of intrigue. We've never seen this before. I don't know if it's ever happened in the UFC side of it with Tough, if we've ever seen, a fighter from the show be able to come and actually compete in an event. I mean, yes, it was live, it was taped.
They have lost on Tough, and then been in the UFC anyway, like shortly after.
Sure.
But never has a contender on Tough appeared on the UFC card while they were contender on. No, absolutely not.
So kind of interesting to see from that standpoint. But, kind of reminiscing back a little bit too, Road to the Title Season 2. Do you remember Frank, the president of Power Slap, stated that everybody on Season 2 would remain on the roster. They didn't cut anybody from that show. Do you think we're going to see that this time around? I know we've talked about it. We're probably around 170, 180 athletes under contract right now, seemingly with, 4 to 6 events annually taking place. Do we want to see the roster continue to grow and have them keep all of these athletes from Road to the Title Season 3? Or do you think they're going to weed it out and be much more selective on which athletes they have under contract long term?
Yeah, 100% more selective. I think, like I said, I alluded to the Fight IQ thing, right, where Bovaert is his first time slapping, and he has the wherewithal to know, whether he wants to extend his arm fully and lose some of that power, or have it close. Vice versa, lose some of that accuracy, and have it closer and get better accuracy. I think as you become more selective, it's like a pyramid. You'll get less at the top, but those folks will be high quality. If you're releasing guys like Stevie Ray Payne, then there's no reason why you should be keeping people who don't have good performances on the show.
Yeah. I also think it's interesting to look at too, because, the OGs, and we talked about before, have been showing that experience definitely is playing into the outcome when they come up against some of the new guys. And so it's but in the reverse side, now you've had guys in season 3 that have been able to study now 12 to 15 months of fights. So are we going to see some of the changing of the guard with being able to watch, observe, because like let's just take for an example. We talked about Brandon Rhodes. Let's take Brandon Rhodes for example. He's been able to watch Wesley Drain now for seemingly 6+ matches. Do you think having that much footage and that much tape on a fighter out there is at some point going to become a disadvantage to that fighter? Not talking about the accumulation of damage that they've had over their career, but do you think having the footage and having the tape versus going against some of these newer guys, do you think it's going to play into the ultimate outcome of these matches?
No, I don't think so. I think ultimately you got to hit them on the button, and you got to be able to take their hits on the button, no matter which way you slice it. Which is a little different from MMA because you can pick up tendencies, right? Mm-hmm. In the case of like an Alan Klingbeil who strikes very fast, it can help you prepare and kind of understand that that's going to happen. But I think in MMA it's a lot more finite because you might recognize that somebody, they circle out a certain way so you can throw kicks or they, dip their head in a certain place or whatever. You can pick up something that they do that you can exploit. In slap, I don't think you can really do that because ultimately you still have to hit the button and take them hitting on the button.
Yeah, see, I disagree with you on that. And the reason why I say that is because I do believe you can't pick up tendencies as well in slap. Because if you look at guys that roll out versus guys that don't, you can strategize, with the actual rollout. Like an Alan Klingbeil example, actually a better example of that, I believe, was actually Ryan Phillips and Darius. Darius notorious for rolling out. If you speed up your windup and you hit him before he can roll out, you then can gain that advantage. Same with some of the guys that and how they clinch. We've seen some athletes that clinch and they drop their head. So when they're clinching and dropping, obviously if you can align your hand more in line with that drop, guys are doing it. Whether they're doing it on purpose and or not, unfortunately, it's allowing them to be hit higher. You're not going to knock somebody out when you hit them up in the orbital bone. You're probably going to cause more damage to your hand. Oftentimes, Brandon Bordeaux might disagree with me on that one, but for the most part, it's in that scenario, it's more advantageous for the person receiving the strike if you're dropping the level and not getting hit on the jawline. So I think there are some tendencies that you can pick up, especially when you get into a scenario with guys that are, like we said, 4, 5, 6 matches. And if they haven't evolved in their game, I think there's different ways. And even with the placement of the chin, based off of how certain athletes throw their strike, we're seemingly seeing athletes with their chin placement slightly different to kind of coincide to how that slap is done. And so, when you're a new guy and you don't have any footage out there for you, you're kind of going in there, blind, or just going off the word of some of the other strikers. I'm sure Brandon Bordeaux heard from some of the other strikers on season 3 what Brandon Rhodes was like, and was just kind of, at that point, kind of getting whatever information that he could in regards to the game that he had, but he never actually seen it on film, so wasn't able to kind of strategize. So, we'll see, because I think as this goes on, the cream of the crop is going to rise to the top. The best athletes in the world that want to be in power slap are going to come, and I think that margin for error is going to become less and less. And I think we're going to see over time that any advantage that you could have of tape on somebody versus not could ultimately play into the outcome and the fun and the outcome of the match overall.
Yeah, I think that's pretty sophisticated. I really didn't think of it that way, but I think it's a good point. I still believe it's tough to time somebody based on what you see on TV. So when you talk about the rollout, it's still a skill you've got to perfect. I think very few guys do it, well enough. But I think ultimately it depends on whether or not, the ref is going to be really stringent on that call or not. I do want to shout out Vern. He was in here on Facebook. Now he's in here on YouTube. And then also Amir, man, congratulations. It sounds like you had your son. I know having kids myself, man, it's a blessing. So congratulations to you, man. Glad that he's healthy. And maybe 20 years from now, we have our first father-son power slap striker pair.
Yeah. Well, Amir's got to go back on road to the title for another 17 more years. Keep a streak going.
Well, he said earlier he's not on season 3, man.
Oh yeah, okay.
He said he can confirm he's not on season 3.
Okay, I'm not sure where that happened, but let's talk about that Vern Cathy quote though. Before you took down, he said he let Austin put his chin in the place that he wanted. Is that a smart tactic? I mean, we look back, we know Vern Cathy won that match, but how smart is that?
I think Vern just he wanted to prove, he wanted to put the chin stuff to rest, and I think rightfully so. I think he did. I think he absolutely did. So I don't know that it's as smart as it is strategic, in that he really just wanted to end that rhetoric. And all things considered, it seems like he'd be next in line for the title. So I'd say he's pretty successful at doing that.
For sure. All right, what's up next? Took on the tape, but I want to see. Yeah.
Nah, don't spoil that, man. We don't want to get you in trouble. We appreciate it, though, brother.
100%. My orbital bone wasn't bad, as a stupid ass emergency room doctor that made it sound like specialist said. I'm fully healed. So, yeah, Brandon Rhodes is healed, or Brandon Bordeaux is healed, which is great. Hopefully we'll be able to see him back once again very soon. Continuing his win streak, I guess we can talk about that now. He was able to be victorious over Brandon Rhodes. So where does that actually leave Bordeaux? Where do you think he fits in that middleweight ranking? And do you think he's next in line for John Davis, or do we think there's another contender match to be had with the likes of Aziel Rodriguez, Static, Wesley Drain? Where do you think he goes next?
I'm gonna say Aziel. I love Brandon Rhodes. I'm not hating, I promise. I think you give Isaiah an opportunity to fight for the title. Brandon Rhodes fights Aziel. Winner of that fights next. I think you create yourself a nice little, lineage of matchups. Again, we're talking about a division that's been practically dormant. We haven't seen the champion in almost a year. His last fight was at Power Step number 5 in October. We're coming up on October. It's uncharted waters. I think enjoy some of these fun matchups while we have them, because it wasn't always like this.
Yeah. I mean, the Aziel matchup makes a lot of sense. Obviously, the Barassa Power Slap holding Aziel in that number 1 contender spot shows what they believe in his game and his skill set. That would be a very interesting matchup, to be honest with you, because Aziel is obviously that, he's El Perro for a reason. He's a dog. He's scrappy. He's that, that old school Mexican street fighter type of guy that, great chin on him, an ever evolving strike. And, coming in with kind of that newcomer with Brandon Bordeaux, I think could make for a very entertaining match. Bordeaux would probably be more of the outspoken one, but we also know that Aziel will not back down from the intimidation factor. So I actually think, right up into the match, I think the face-off would be phenomenal, even at weigh-ins. And I think that skill set will really set it apart. And, kind of once again, we talked about it, it's still kind of that, OG experience versus youth. Even though Bordeaux does have some experience under his belt now on some numbered cards, but Aziel, being there from day one and the amount of fights he's been able to amass in a very short period of time as well, being 15 plus months would definitely be a banger. And we keep talking about it, but the middleweight division was definitely something that wasn't in a great shape really before Power Slap number 8. And, seemingly all of a sudden now we've got a lot of intriguing matchups. What if Aziel is booked? What else would make sense? Do you have the rankings up, Ding, 1 through 5 right now?
If you say like 5 more words, yes.
Yeah. Static would be a real tough match for you, Bordeaux. I actually think that could be a great match. I'm not sure where he is in the rankings as to you, but I think that would really solidify if you could take care of Static. It's not an easy out, but I think it would be a great match. It would be able to allow you to show your personality versus Static's personality, be able to show your skill set versus his skill set. And I think it's one that would match up really well from you, because I think you'd be the taller of the two athletes and you'd be the bigger guy. And, I think that'd be a great match. Where is he at in the middle?
AJ's 5. AJ's 5. Wesley James number 4. Garrett Grimes number 6. Eddie Spaghetti number 7. And yeah.
Where's Bordeaux?
Bordeaux's number 3.
Oh, number 3. So I'm saying fight back in the ranks. All right. But yeah, I think Styack's a great matchup, to be honest with you.
Well, Static was number 3. He got unseated just by what happened at 8.
Gotcha.
He didn't like, lose to get moved down.
Yeah. What do you think, Ding? Who do you think someone for Bordeaux?
If not Azael,
yeah,
I think Isaiah would be a fun one also. I feel bad, man. It sounds like I'm saying I don't want Bordeaux to get a title shot. It's not that. I just think Isaiah should get the title shot because of the performance, and Bordeaux should be able to fight Azael. That's fun. I mean, you could do Isaiah, I guess, but then how do you justify putting number 3 against the champion? I don't know. Honestly, I want to see Bordeaux get a title shot at some stage in the future, but I mean, he's got to fight the top of the division. I think it's only right.
Yeah, I mean, there's Azael and Isaiah above there. So
I mean, Merlis is number 10. I'm not really 100% sure why he's so far down there. I think he's a fun cat. I'd love to see Merlis back. I think I've said.
You know who I want to see? Wesley Drain versus Merlis. That would be a fun matchup.
Yeah, I think I think Wesley Drain versus anybody is a fun matchup, but yeah, I still believe in Merlis 100%. I think he probably got a kind of a rough go, given what happened on the show. But I thought he showed a ton of heart, and I really think he could be a problem.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. Looking at these guys, let's talk about kind of going forward. You said John Davis hasn't been active in a little while. You think Azael is next in line. For the next numbered card, what other title do you think will be on the line? Do you think we have a contender for Damien DeBell at heavy?
No, not unless
you
do Dorian. But Dorian's a guy we haven't seen.
With Vern Cathy.
You should. I think it's enough time. I mean, Wolverine's been out since what, April?
Yeah.
Obviously, August is tomorrow, so all things point to October. So you're looking at that would be 6 months or so, right, from the 4th month to the 10th month. I think that's way probably too much time off for Ron Beta based on what we know about him. So I would think you'd see Ron Beta versus Wolverine versus Vern in the October event.
In October. Who else would we say? Anthony Blackburn.
Welter, like I said, we talked about. I mean, there's a few fun matchups. I just think because of how close it was, Manny deserves an immediate rematch. Honestly, I believe that. If for whatever reason he's not ready, then you just follow the line. Go Jules Scott. Give Jules Scott a chance. I feel bad because when you win like the way that he did, your stock doesn't go up none. So I feel bad for the guy because I know he picks his spots. Jules not a guy that's like trying to fight on every card. So for him to appear and not have such a great performance as far as the way that he won, I feel for the guy. So if you don't do Manny Blackburn, I think you just follow the order and do Jewel Blackburn.
Yeah. You just touched on Jules Scott. Do you think he screams too loud, or do you think he's getting a raw kind of, a raw shake of the stick in regards to some of his competitors that he's gone up against?
I just think he fights so infrequently. It's tough, and then he just fought on the undercard. It's tough to say for sure what the reason is, but I don't think he gets the respect he deserves for sure. I think the Robert Trujillo knockout probably started him off on the wrong foot, if I'm being honest. There's a lot of reasons that we've heard for that, some of which I'm sure are valid. But it is what it is in this sport. You know what I mean? You either made it or you didn't. And to get knocked out cold like that is never a good thing. It's tough to come back from for sure.
Yeah. Well, obviously, he fought Zach Zane. Zach Zane, do you think we've seen the last of him? Or do you think we see him back? He had some flinching issues. Now he's had some striking issues. Do you think they give him another opportunity?
As 2-2. Is that right?
I'm not sure.
He's had a lot of issues with fouls, and that's never a good thing, man. that's the wrong type of thing you want. But I mean, 2 wins, 2 losses isn't really a record that you would say like cut the guy.
Hmm.
But the fouls, man, like especially if you looked at Jules' face, you never want that, dude. That's absurd. It's not gonna help the sport. Um, I think he has a shot, but he's got to clean up. Otherwise, I think he's spelling the end for himself.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely hear you. Let's. I know we're going back and forth, but let's finish off with the with the matches because Cooper Housley, Logan Greenhall, ending in a draw. Obviously both strikers, definitely would never want it to end that way. Cooper Housley seemingly going in to the actual final round and literally just having to, tap Logan on the chin, commits a foul, which inevitably made this match an actual draw. Where does it leave both these guys? Does it kind of leave them in limbo?
Yeah, I don't see how you justify any movement for anyone given a draw like that. Even with Bordeaux and Brahimir, it was tough, right? I mean, I felt like I understood what Bordeaux was saying because he won the first fight, but the rematch, it almost feels like it happens for no reason, and that's frustrating because, like I said, I thought both these guys showed a lot of heart, but who's better? We don't know.
100%. I definitely agree with you. All right, man. Let's move on. But we talked. We left one guy out though, who is actually supposed to make an appearance here today, but seemingly isn't here yet. We know he's on island time. But the crazy Hawaiian. Do you think we see him back immediately? And who do we see him go up against? Obviously, they've placed Dumpling as number one. Are they showing their cards that they believe he's the next contender in line for a title shot?
Yeah, bro. They're showing double aces to talk to you in your blackjack talk. That's the hand that they want, man. Or not double aces, the ace and a king. Right?
I was gonna say double aces.
You know what I mean.
You have to split.
You know what I mean.
If you're playing poker.
Whatever, dude.
Wrong game, Ding.
Ace of the king or a queen or a jack, whatever. Yeah, I think that's absolutely what this is. I think you see Dumpling versus Hawaiian.
Mm-hmm.
In October, I don't know. I mean, if it is Abu Dhabi, which we all believe it is, it makes sense. It makes too much sense, but who knows? I mean, it's possible that Hawaiian wants to take some time off. For a champion, he's been very active, and he's taking out everybody that there is. Every time there's a new guy, he steps up. It was Kalani, then it was Danny. So I just think he if he wants to take some time off, I think he has the right to. But I think it makes too much sense given where it's at.
Yeah, there's. I agree with you. I think they're showing their hand exactly what they're trying to do. I think it makes a lot of sense when you go overseas. Obviously, a lot easier to get Dumpling into Abu Dhabi. Should that be the location? You take kind of America's best versus, the world's best, seemingly super heavyweight. You put them together. I think it makes it for an incredible sell. That becomes your headliner across the board. And so I think it makes a lot of sense. Should that be the next card? Because we simply don't know it yet. There seems to be a lot of things that when we start to, think through logically what happens, we seem to get thrown a curveball. Obviously, behind those closed doors, they have a plan in place. They know what's gonna happen. We just, look at whatever tidbits of information that we get along the way and try to piece it all together as it kind of evolves. But there was actually another event in South Africa this past weekend. Do you have any information on that? I know I seen a bunch of reposts about it and stuff like that, but I believe it was the South African Slap Fighting League or Association. I believe that was what it was called. They had a big red square table, and it looked like they had actual arm wrestling pegs that they were able to hold on to. Do you have any more information you can share? I know some of the guys were in the DM, and I know you're a man in that thing. Did you see anything that stood out to you?
Yeah, I see a lot of undefeated records. Most of the people who are reaching out are guys that are undefeated. Obviously Danny Van Heerden being from South Africa, it definitely raises some eyebrows if you have guys who are already doing this. We don't see tons of feeder organizations already existing. So it's an interesting prospect. It seems like Danny was there. I'd love to see if there's any footage or anything he had. Unfortunately, the footage that we saw is kind of grainy, difficult to tell and there's a lot of kind of like there's no action in some of the parts, so it's tough to sift through. But yeah, it absolutely seems like they tried to host a legitimate slap event, and you have some people who have 4 or 5 matches under their resume with no losses. So it's exciting.
Do we know if it was sanctioned or not?
Nah, that part I'm not sure. Honestly, I would imagine no. I don't know what sanctioning in South Africa means, but I don't think so.
Okay. Got you, my man. Let's talk about the rest of the week and what's to come, because I know we're coming up for a live event tomorrow. Obviously, the Road to the Title debut episode number 2 is going to be dropping at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. in the East, followed immediately by the final slap right here on our YouTube channel, on X, and on Facebook as well. I'm leaving one out. On Rumble, we'll also be there. But we'll be recapping the episode. We're going to be talking to some of the strikers and give you the instant analysis and feedback from the show itself as we continue on here through Road to the Title. We're saying 12 weeks that this is going to happen for, and we're going to be here all the way through and just keep on getting you guys the insight, tips, information, and continuing. So if you're not following Slap News on IG, definitely do so, because that's where we share the most up-to-date information as we get it in. We keep cutting our teeth and grinding away every single day to make sure we bring you guys that coverage. And I always say, like, if breaking news happens, we pretty well stop our life to make sure we can understand it, to bring you guys the story that's authentic and true and real. And we pride ourselves on having being the authority in the slap fighting game and making sure that we're a credible resource. So if you see something on Slap News, you're going to know that it's credible. We don't report on rumors. We don't report on speculation on our actual stuff. So we talk from facts and have sources, directly that we confirm the information with before we post it up on IG anytime. So, Ding, the wrap up. Did we forget anything in the comments?
Nah, I mean, comments are it seems like we got to most of them. Just to do some math real quick, housekeeping. It was advertised that there'll be 33 fights. We've seen 2 fights, obviously, and then we know tomorrow we'll see 3 fights. So you're looking at 5 fights down from 33, so that's 28. So if you did that over 9 weeks, that'd be 2 fights per episode. 3 fights per episode, with one having a 4th fight. So I don't know how all this fits in. I'm still not clear on the math. But, again, it's different from last season, which is always exciting because you see different things. Obviously, we saw some drama in the house for a match that we're actually not going to see this week, which is an interesting maneuver. And like you said, with all the fights you saw in the promo, it seems like there'll be a fight every episode, both on stage and off stage. The guys are not only have been in the comments, but also been on Instagram saying that this season is going to be the best season yet. There's so much hype surrounding kind of the athletes coming out of the season. So it's overall, it's very exciting. It's a super exciting time for Power Slap. And, we're here for all of it. We'll be here every week, more than once a week, as you guys can tell. And we appreciate you guys, your support, your questions. And, from time to time, we like to talk a little shit. One thing I want to say real quick, because it's kind of funny. So when I posted the Battle of the Brandons thing, I struggled because there's Brandon with an E and there's Brandon with an O. So I was like, which one do I choose? Because there's both. So I decided to go with, I think, a E and an O in parentheses, and then the rest of the name, the N and the S. Power Slap didn't seem to care that much. So they just went with the O for both of them, which I thought was kind of funny because I cared so much about figuring out how I could include them both, given that one's got the right spelling and one's got the wrong spelling. I'll let you guys guess who I'm saying has the wrong spelling. It's obviously a joke. But it seems like you guys like a little bit of personality, so I thought that was something funny that, like, internally my brain was like, fuck, how do you make sure that this is all inclusive, because there's 2 of them and they have different spellings for their name. Let's see. Run back Danny McKinney. I have the Hitman versus Dumpling. That's not going to happen. I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm saying that's not going to happen. There's no way you do the Hawaiian Hitman versus the Dumpling at this point. No way. But what do you think of that?
The Hawaiian Hitman versus Dumpling?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so at all. I think if you're gonna give Dumpling anybody other than the Crazy Hawaiian, I think you give him Dwayne Crespo. The only person that I think is that makes a lot of sense in this particular situation. So, but I mean, I think it's pretty well locked in stone. Dumpling to Crazy Hawaiian. I can't see it happening any other way.
Yeah, I mean, again, skyrocketing a guy on his debut in the organization to number one for knocking out number 9 or somebody who was very high in the rankings. You're showing your hand. Like I said, you've got an ace and a king, and we're seeing it.
Yeah. Awesome, my man. Let's wrap it up. That's Smack Talk, episode number 22. We keep on rolling. Coming back with you tomorrow. You don't have to wait long if you want to see us. We appreciate you. If you made it this far in the episode, we'll be back at 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And then tune in to our YouTube channel as well on Thursday and Friday for the post-fight interviews with the fighters from the episode number 2 of Road to the Title Season 3. Appreciate y'all. We'll talk soon.